So this is our winner circle chat. Welcome everybody. If you're here, it means that you participated in a blitz, a Monad Blitz, and won or did very well. I know that we have people here from Nigeria, from Turkey, and from Indonesia. First of all, my name is Jeff. I'm going to talk a little slower than I usually do because I am well aware that there's probably a nice number of you that English is not your first language. And I want to make sure that you have the opportunity to follow along and ask questions as you need. The nice thing also, hey, Port, I have a handful of our team on here, and I'll tell you who our team is in a second and what we're doing. But the other nice thing is, there's a couple of people in the room. I see Burke here too. I would venture to guess that the folks in Turkey might have some more questions in Turkish than what I could answer. So feel free to ask those of Burke and Port, and they could help you. I'll also send this video to you after it is finished processing, so you can go back and if there's anything interesting to you, you can rewatch that. So hopefully that's helpful. Jess, I'm going to ask you to slow me down if I start going too fast.
For sure.
Is everybody with me so far? Give me an emoji. Cool. All right. So first, who we are, just so you can validate us as people who are qualified to have this call. Okay. My background, if you were on at the beginning, I spent about 30 years in private education and did everything you can do in that world, from teaching little kids to working with adults on how to be better teachers and leaders and build programs. It was always in a private environment, so we were never governed by what the state or the government told us to do. We always could do what we wanted that we thought was best. Got into this industry 6 years ago and have done about everything you could do in this industry as well. I've been a founder a couple of times, been a successful founder, depending on how you define success. Have worked with, I think the most relevant part of where I'm coming from is I founded and built a project on Solana that was also on Sui and Cosmos called Turbine. And at Turbine, that was previously, before that, called Web3 Builders Alliance. And the original name way back was Terra Builders Alliance, before Terra crashed. And that model gave me an opportunity to be on calls like this with people like you who were shipping 60 to 100 projects a quarter trying to make it. So I've seen a lot of the earliest stages of building a product and trying to take it the next steps. Probably 70 or 80 of those people won hackathons. A lot of them went mainnet. A lot of them are still going. A lot of them leveraged what they built into a public good and got hired or absorbed by another company. Most recently, I'll use a couple of examples just, again, for the credibility side so that you understand where I'm coming from. There was a product that was built called Dark Lake that won a hackathon. It was built in a Turbine cohort, and it won, it did well. It had a problem when it launched, and we'll talk about, when you go mainnet. And as good as it was, you only really have an opportunity to make a good first impression once. And what happened there is It was a really great team and a really great product, but they lost the audience, and they just got purchased. In other words, the team got hired and they got compensated by a very big organization called Soul Strategies. So they absorbed Dark Lake and that whole team, and now Dark Lake is continuing under a much better banner because they had talent. They had a great product. They had a great team. They messed up their own launch, something out of their control, but the quality of who they were and what they did was noticed, and they're doing very well now with Soul Strategies. So there's a lot of different ways to make it, and you've got to understand that because it is a journey. It is a process. Another one more recently, a team called TXTX participated at Turbine, came up with an idea for some public good infrastructure, built it. It did well, but it really didn't have a market. They came to Turbine, they found something else. They built something called Surfpool, which became the test validator tool for developers on Solana. Again, still not the most productizable, project, but what that led to is the Solana Foundation absorbed them, hired them to continue to do their work. So I give you those two examples because not every measure of success is going mainnet and having a huge TVL and a lot of people. I've had that too. I've seen a number of folks go that route. Okay, so that's where we're coming from. On this call with me are people from something called Cortex. You will learn a lot more about what Cortex is in the coming weeks. You're probably the first large group to hear that term. But we've got Jason here, who has a lot of experience and expertise. We got Jessica, Jenny. I'm just going to call out their names because I don't want to take a lot of time introducing all of them. All of these people are people I've worked with for periods of time. And what we've done at Cortex is we've gotten the best of the best that we know to come and be of service to the world community. Kato is with us, Burke is with us, Console is with us, Jonas is with us, Lamsey is with us. So, there's a number of folks on this call that we are available here to help, and we all have different expertise. From deep engineering to marketing and strategy to design and everything in between. Okay, so who you are folks that showed up at the very minimum. You are people that showed up for a single day Monad Blitz event for whatever reason. I'm sure we'd have 20 different reasons here that you showed up. You built something cool. So you had a product in mind that you were able to get from an idea to a proof of concept in 8 hours, which is absolutely remarkable. Okay. So you've won and you've experienced that adrenaline. Why are we here? We want to help those of you that are serious about either taking the current project or a future project to market, and to give you some real granular, down and dirty thoughts on what it's like. One of the reasons that I think this is important to do, just for context, a lot of early stage founders get mentored by people that have been too successful for too long and probably forget what the first couple weeks or months after a hackathon project actually feel like. Okay. And look, those mentors are incredible. I love them. I work with a lot of those scenarios. But one area that I always felt like was a gap, and this is product strategy, by the way. My business thesis is find a gap that needs to be filled and fill it with something of quality, and people will keep you around. People will figure out a way to compensate you and keep you around doing what you do. That's what happened with Dark Lake. That's what happened with TXTX. Okay? People said, here's talent. Here's a real need. No, it doesn't have a token. No, it's not going to pull a lot of TVL, but we need it for a bigger picture. So let's figure out how to pay these people and keep them doing it. I think a lot of early stage teams stop or make mistakes because no one's talking about this gap. So that's why we're here. The other reason we're doing this as a group is there's no greater network where you all are than each other. Okay? We have people from 3 different countries here that have won. Connect with each other. Even if you're building the exact same thing, that's not a problem. You're really not competing with each other, and I'll get to that in a few minutes. Okay? But nobody's going to be able to have a conversation with you. No one's going to understand your challenges better than someone else who's at the same stage. You need those people. Some of my best friends in this industry are people that started a startup 5 years ago when I did, that we kept in touch, knowing we would never work together, just so we have people to just let it out, to cry to yell at, who are going to understand. Very, very important. You need that. Okay? All right. How am I doing with pace and content so far? Give me an emoji if everything's groovy so far. Somebody not. Somebody. Yes. Okay, cool. Awesome. Because I'm going to talk about stuff that most of you probably have not thought about. All right. I would encourage you strongly to take a screenshot of this. I will send you this slide deck, but this is interactive. Okay. The Socratic process, if you don't know what that is, it's a process of deep discussion through questions. Okay. So you want to get to the point where you can honestly and rigorously question yourself and each other as a project team. That's the relationship you need to have if you have co-founders. Take an inventory on who you are and what your project is. And be really honest with yourself. Okay? The 5W how model. Who am I? Who am I as a person? Who am I as a builder? Well, I'm somebody who gets obsessed with an idea almost to a fault. I'm somebody who pushes myself too hard, and sometimes I push the people around me the same way. Those are very honest things that I can say about myself out loud. I've done this for a long time, so it's easy for me to do that. I don't feel vulnerable or shame in saying those 2 faults of mine, because I know it's good to own that. Okay, so who are you? What is your project? Go deep. Keep asking more questions on what. How does it work? How do you work? You know, why are you doing this? Maybe the most important thing you need to be thinking about right now, why am I doing this? Be honest. If it's to make a lot of money, That's okay. That's a good reason. And a lot of people think that way. You know, if it's to take care of my parents, that's a good reason too. If it's to get my parents off my back because they think I'm wasting my life with magic internet money, you know, but be honest with yourself and put it on paper. You're going to learn a lot, and it's going to help you understand who you are, because who you are in this industry is directly attached to your reputation. And your reputation probably has more to do with how successful or not that you are than anything else. Because if you have a really good reputation, people are going to look at your work with a different lens than if you have a bad reputation. And reputation is about knowing who you are and staying true to that. Okay. So if you don't know what the 5W hows are, if someone from my team could write those 5W hows in the chat, okay, that would be great. Rhetorical modes. Another thing to try to sit and write out. Okay, if you're a founder, you're going to do a lot of writing. Get ready. The better you can take what's in your head and organize it on paper or on a document, the better you'll be at 10 other things in the process. Get used to it. I use a notepad. Actually, I've got like 6 of them laying around. And then I translate it to a document. When I go from my brain to a notepad to a document, it gets organized in the document. Sometimes people are laughing at me who know my documents. My documents are not always organized. Or they start that way, and then suddenly there's a tab that says Jeff's mess, which is normal. So rhetorical modes, define your terms. Okay, this is really important. So I'm going to give you the definition. Oops. Oh, is someone doing the 5W hows in the chat? All right, there we go. All right, thanks, Jenny. Definitions, define your terms. One of the things a lot of early stage founders assume is that everybody in the audience that they're trying to attract understands their language. And I mean the language of the technology and the product, not necessarily your native language. Okay, like when Keone talks about Monad DB, he doesn't go right to, the IOU ring and the ring buffers and stuff like that, because the general audience doesn't know that kind of technical terminology. Okay, if you say the term perps to somebody who doesn't have anything to do with crypto, they're not going to know what it is. You need to say it's a type of option. Okay, it's a derivative. Try to define your terms in a way that everybody in this industry and outside of it can understand. In doing this process, you're going to understand your own product better. Okay, so define your terminology, because the goal isn't to build just for each other and to just build for the people that are in the industry already and using blockchain. The goal is adoption. The goal is to make products that everybody can use. Okay, and that is part of the second rhetorical mode, narrative. What's the narrative? What's the story you want to tell? And there's going to be multiple stories. What would your narrative be to an investor? What would your narrative be to retail participants in this industry that are already here? Would that change if they're already on Monad or they're in another ecosystem? What would your narrative be to TradFi institutions that might be interested in your product? What would your narrative be to people that are not in the industry at all, but you want them to try your product and get feedback from them on how hard or easy was this for you to use? Okay, So narrative is very important. These next two, exemplification and illustration. Really, what are the examples that you would use? Metaphors. Oh, a perp is like an option. Imagine you go down the street and someone's selling lemonade. What kind of little anecdotes, examples would you use? What pictures and visuals would you put on a slide deck or on your landing page that would help people understand what you're trying to do? Okay. These next three all go together, and they have a lot of uses. Okay. They're three analytical tools. Cause and effect. Hey, user, if you do this, this will be the effect. What are the different causes and effects in your product? And then you could also analyze the process. If there's multiple things that people can do in your product, you can analyze the process. This will help you with your narrative. This will help you with everything above. If you are new, here's your process. Welcome. Set up a wallet. Get some stable coins. If you've been here before, click this button. Here's your process. Check your dashboard. See what the local markets are. List out the steps in the processes that users are going to, engage with in your product. All of this is going to become part of narrative, deck, investment, communications, marketing. And how do I make a better product knowing these various processes? How can I compare a new idea to an old idea if I change one thing in the process? And then that, inherently is comparing. And comparative analysis is also good. If you perceive somebody else building something that you think is exactly the same, and why would I compete because they are so good, do a comparative list. Find out what's different. Okay, and I'm going to show you something on the last slide called 64 cheesesteaks. All right. Remember that what I just said when we get to that slide. Okay. Next. How many of you have heard the term roadmap and/or timeline? Give me an emoji if you're familiar with those terms. Okay. Because you're going to hear people, look, you're going to get a lot of advice. People are going to tell you what you need to do. But they're not going to always tell you how, either because they don't know how, or they don't know the best way for you, or they think that giving advice is saying, go make a roadmap. Okay? Roadmap is where you want to go. Timeline is your time horizon to get there. They're different. Right? I mean, you've got to, if I'm planning out my day, I might have the different places that I need to go, but I need to plug them each into an actual time frame. Okay? It makes you think about the what and the when, which are two of the 5 W hows. The one thing, if you are a serious early stage founder, hear me when I tell you this. TXTX won their hackathon originally almost 3 years ago. Dark Lake won 2 years ago. Okay. There's a time horizon for making it. And it's measured in years, not months or weeks. You did something in a day. Remarkable. You need to string together 3,000 or 4,000 days. I know that becomes 10 years, but you understand what I'm saying. When we work with our best teams in the past, and we had products that we thought would really go, and look, Jenny's on this call. She's been there. We tell people minimum 2 to 4 years of your life if this hits. So when you're thinking about your product, and you're thinking about what you're doing and who you are and why you love your product, and by the way, you should love your product, okay? But you shouldn't fall in love with it so much that you can't adjust. Be honest with yourself and your teammates. Are you willing to put a couple years into this thing, not knowing if it's going to succeed or fail? Because there is no way to know. Okay? It's an important thing. Again, rigorous honesty about these things. Okay. Let me pause there for a second. Any questions from anybody or comments or clarification that you might need? Okay. Again, be honest. What are you really good at? What are you not? Take an inventory. What are you good at? What are you not good at? What are your teammates good at? What are they not good at? What do you need to do? What do you have? What don't you have? And it doesn't mean you go off and hire people to fill those roles. It means the first thing you do is say, what is a priority on this we don't have that's in the next however long? What is the priority that we need? Can I learn it? Who do I know and trust that might be able to help and would do so probably without getting paid? See, a lot of this is obvious stuff. I'm just trying to help you organize your thoughts in a way that they can be useful. The way that part is useful is you now know the person you're looking for that fits a need. Okay. And it's not always going to work that way. You know, here in the US, with US sports are a big part of my life. There are these professional sports drafts where they select these players from, to go and play on their teams. And there's this concept called best player available. Sometimes you draft for need. Sometimes you draft for best player available. Some people always go for best player available and fill the needs other ways. There's no right or wrong. Personally, I go for find the best people I know, and we will organically fill gaps. Okay? But again, what do you need? When do you need it? What kind of person is it? It is more important that you get a culture fit of someone you can get along with for a long period of time than to go hire the most skilled person you could find. Skills could be grown. Skills could be gained and learned. Person being a culture fit can sometimes cause more harm than good. When I used to work with teams on hiring talent, young teams that had a lot of money because they got an investment would give me a job description of a unicorn. Okay, we want this person. I'm like, okay, there's 5 of them on the planet. 2 of them are working, making more money than you just raised. 2 of them are not working because they don't have to anymore and because they've made more money than you've raised. And 1 of them is available. That available person, you need to ask yourself why. Because there's a good chance that culture fit is part of the problem and the reason that person is available. It's not the only reason, but it could be. You will go a lot further with a good team fit than the most skilled person who is not a team fit. Just an opinion, by the way. Okay. I am just talking nonstop here, but I guess that's kind of the purpose. You got to understand, if you're a founder, you're a leader. Okay. This is a reality, and it's a hard pill for a lot of people to swallow. If you built something and you want to be a main net successful business founder, you are going to be a public face leader. There's no way around it. Not if you want to be really successful. The days of hiding in the shadows are quickly ending in this industry. It's inevitable. So you need to think of yourself that way. And you got to understand that your reputation is everything. Okay. Many, many, many great projects with great teams and great founders. Someone uncovered something that someone said or did 5 years prior, and it affects their business. It causes a loss of trust. Your reputation is everything. Protect it. Really, it's super important. Don't go on Twitter and drop F-bombs talking about Mega ETH. You can, but just know someone might find that someday and throw it back in your face. Be who you are, but understand that you might have to answer to some of those things at some point in time. Okay? The last thing on this slide is, this is super important from a purely product and distribution standpoint. Who's going to use your product? Ideally. Who are the different types of people? You know, personas, a group of people that fit a persona make up a type of audience, just so you know. You know, persona is singular, audience is a group of those personas. Who is your audience? Because that's going to determine how you work on distribution, how you get users, which you don't have users, you don't have a product. Right? Everyone knows that. How are you going to appeal to that audience? What gets that audience excited? You got to do some research. Got to talk to lots of people. Okay, so be really clear on your audience. And don't just say DeFi users. It's too general. The deeper you go in questioning these things, who are the personas? What is the audience, or who are the audiences? The deeper you go in having those conversations or writing about those out of your head, the easier it's going to be to create the material and the content to go get them, to create the product that they want to use. The better you know them, the better you can create for them and attract them and retain them. Okay. Has everyone got that? I'm going to switch slides. Okay. So this slide here, what I want to do is I kind of want to open it up now, because everybody in here is very different. This is a list of some of the most common topics that I've spoken with early stage founders, where many of you are, over the years. So I did not want to assume any one of these was more important than another. So now it's your turn. Who wants to raise his or her hand and say, can you talk about any of these? What do you guys want to talk about now or ask about? And when you're on a call talking about your project, you got to speak up. You cannot have imposter syndrome. What do we always say in our room, guys? What do we say? Console. What do we always say in the room?
You don't have imposter syndromes.
Leave imposter syndrome at the door. You're not going anywhere if you have imposter syndrome. You can't be a leader and a mainnet product founder if you have imposter syndrome. And if you have an opportunity to show your face and say, this is what I want to talk about, or here's my product, you rip that camera on and you say it. No questions, no topics. Okay, so I mean, if there's no desire to dive into any of these, I'll move on to the next slide. Just want to, final call for this slide. If you're waiting for someone else to speak up first, you're waiting for someone to launch their product first, waiting for an investor to call you back first. All right. Okay, give me an emoji if you're on Delta V. Everybody should be on Delta V. Okay, hold on. I'm going to drop you the link. Okay. Here's the Delta V link. Okay. Delta V is a Monad early stage project platform. It's excellent. It's really well done. And it gets you a lot of exposure and it will help you progress along. Don't just think about your product on there, but go look at how other people are using that platform. Learn from others. Very important. Okay. The next question is, and you don't need to let me know this now, but I will do more of these if there's a desire for me to get into any of those topics or to specifically, have us as a team work with you. We will do more one-on-one calls with individual projects. But you gotta show up to them ready with questions and needs. Okay. As much as I like to talk, I don't like to talk for an hour straight. And engagement is very important. How are you using Telegram or Discord is important as well. User engagement. What are you doing to talk to users? Do you have a strategy? You always see talk to users. You never see, here's how you talk to users and use what you hear. People are telling you to do things, but without telling you how to do them. Assuming you know. Guess what? I know a lot of VCs. If you said, what do you mean by that? They probably can't explain it because they don't have to talk to users. Well, they do. They have to talk to liquidity providers, but it's different. Okay. What else? We're here, we're available, we're offering this as a service. This is who we are as a group. We are a service organization. Okay. We are not seeking partnership or equity in any of your projects. So please, if that's a concern, get it out of your head. That's not what we're doing here. The more you all succeed, the more Monad grows, the better it is for everybody. That's our goal. Anything else? Any questions on anything from anyone?
Oh, so hey there. Okay. It would the last slide, the last two slides, I saw something on isolation. I wanted to know more about it,
Isolation?
Yeah.
Okay, good question. Don't isolate yourself from the rest of the world while you're working. And don't isolate yourself in your real world by being too much in this industry. Okay. Burnout is real. I experienced it. And burnout, a lot of times, what starts the burnout is when you isolate. You detach from your team. You detach from your users, your community. In real life, you detach from family and friends. And you obsess too much. You can't turn your brain off at night so you don't sleep. Now, is there a level of all of the above that's okay early on? Yes. It's what separates founders from people that just want to go and work and take orders. But you've got to have the awareness around you of isolation. Okay. Do not, if you find yourself isolating from both your industry world and your personal world, that's a problem. Take a day off, touch some grass, sleep, eat, and then be almost mechanical in setting a call with your team and going out to eat with family. Don't just let it happen. Say, oh my gosh, I got to get out. Oh my gosh, I need a call with the team. Okay. Get on a call with people and catch up with them, reconnect. Look, it's a tech industry. It's a people business. Okay. Does that help, Console? And look, I say those couple of things right there from personal experience.
Yeah, I got a question too, from the last slide. Yeah, the place that talks about impulsivity versus process versus and patience. Like, what's the construct to the thoughts? Yeah.
So look, I think we're in an industry where most of us are impulsive. We get excited about something and it's out of us in a chat, in Twitter, out of our mouths fast without thinking about it. And that's great. A lot of great stuff comes out of that. Sometimes you've got to think, if this is a bigger deal, let's pause, have a little patience. Let's talk about the process of getting it out the right way. And again, I will be very honest with everybody here because I always am. This is a problem for me. I deal with this every day because I am, even at my advanced age, super impulsive and ADHD. But here's the best example. If you looked at my Twitter box of drafts, and if there was a way to track tweets that I delete, it's a lot more than actual stuff that hits the timeline. because I could catch myself being impulsive. Again, it's self-awareness. You got to reflect daily and be self-aware. And the best example for this group is if it's something that is emotional and can affect your reputation, leave it out. I mean, look, I have an emotional response to things I see on the timeline every day. And I catch myself and I say, don't respond. That's not your reputation. That's not who you are. It took me a long time to get here. Because look, right now my sports teams are all in the playoffs, and the fans for the other teams are so awful. And I want to say stuff back so badly. And I don't. Because I don't need to. Sometimes saying nothing in response to someone attacking you is way better than responding. But that's what that means, Kato. Hopefully that helps. But these are the things you need to think about. I mean, you all know there's been a number of hacks recently. Do you know what people are doing when these hacks happen? They're going back and searching the tweet history of the people running these projects and finding bad tweets to say, look, here's what this person is. Their reputation. They're getting kicked when they're down. And it's going to hurt their projects. Okay. All right. And I mean, look, I've said this a lot, and obviously it's a very important piece. Reputation is Bitcoin. Your reputation is the most important thing you got to make sure that you protect. Curate who you are and who you want people to see you as. For better or worse, I have a very specific reputation. And it really hasn't changed. Some people like me, some people don't. That's okay. You're not going to make everybody happy. Don't try, or you'll lose the good ones. Okay? Work on relationships. You know, every call you take with a potential investor is a relationship. It may not convert to an investment. But if that person walks away from that chat thinking, you know, we don't invest in that kind of thing, but I really like them. I like the team. Oh, I know someone who would be interested. Let me make a warm intro. As opposed to you crashing out when they say no, and suddenly everyone knows that not someone to work with because you crashed out. Be careful about crashing out, folks. You have to be the best of the best at what you do to get away with crashing out publicly. Okay, that's just a reality. The other thing is be responsible with money. Investors, users, they're going to track it. The last thing you want is to be like, you know, this founder that just got hacked who has pictures of herself in front of $100,000 cars wearing $50,000 clothes, demonstrating being irresponsible financially, and now all of her users that are losing money and being hacked are saying, oh, you know, sell your cars and your clothes so that I can get my money back. Be responsible with your funds. Because this is blockchain. It's very easy to track. And people will. Yeah, Jess?
Yeah, I just want to point out too, I think that the issue with that particular person was that it wasn't her funds, it was investor funds.
Yep.
So it was things that should be used to drive the project forward that bought absolute luxury goods.
Yeah, totally.
Investor funds are not your funds, they are your projects.
Yeah, no, I mean, Jess, that's a great point. Folks, when I say financial responsibility, candidly, be as irresponsible with your own money as you want to be. You know, be irresponsible. I I worked in sales when I was in college, and my boss used to always encourage us to be irresponsible because it made us hungrier to sell more. You know, it was good. Yeah, go buy the new car, go travel, spend lots of money, you know, because it was good for business. With your own money, do whatever you want. But with anything that is project oriented, be responsible because people are watching. And the more successful you are, the more they'll watch. Okay. Comms, legal, all, you know, important topics I could happily dive into at a later call. The one thing I wanted to share with you is this concept of 64 cheesesteaks, and it has to do with competition. And I told you I would come back to this, and we'll finish with this one. I'm from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in the US here, and Philly is known for cheesesteaks. How many of you have ever heard of a Philly cheesesteak? Curious if like Indonesia and Turkey and Nigeria know about Philly cheesesteaks. Anybody? All right. So in Philadelphia, the main city cuisine that it's known for is a cheesesteak sandwich. Okay. So simply bread with a certain type of steak chopped up or not chopped up and a certain kind of cheese. 3 ingredients. Okay. Every year during the NCAA tournament, you don't need to know what that is, they do a bracket competition of the best cheesesteak in Philly. 64 cheesesteak restaurants get selected from hundreds on which one is the best. And fans vote and do all that. In one city, there's a few hundred restaurants that put bread and steak and cheese together just a little bit differently than others. 64 of them do it so well, and trust me, I live there. These places are always busy with a line out the door, all of them, because they do bread and steak and cheese just a little bit differently. They have a vibe in their restaurant that's just a little different. They talk to their customers in a way that's just a little bit different. There are places that are known for the people talking to their customers in a very rude, nasty manner. People like that. Some people don't. Don't worry if someone's building something like what you're building. Make your bread, steak, and cheese a little different. Talk to your customers a little different. And this is what goes back to know your audience, the persona. Who do you want? Okay. If you see, oh my gosh, this other project that I think has a better team than us is building the same thing, I'm not going to build it anymore. That is the worst reason on the planet to not build something. Because you'll only regret it when their product sucks and yours is better. I've seen a lot of that. So we're here to help you. If you need anything, oh, that's the wrong slide. Let me not do that. That's the slide for the next call. If you need anything, we are all connected on an email. You have my email. If you guys want a Winner's Circle Telegram chat, don't worry, Jess, I won't pull you in unless you want to. Let me know. If you want to do this again, let me know. And we will do this. We're here to serve. It's what our initiative is all about. It is a service to the community to grow adoption on Monad. That's why we're here. Pure and simple. Any final thoughts or questions from the peanut gallery? Okay, folks, thank you all for coming. I hope this was valuable for you. If you have any feedback for me, shoot me an email. and good luck. Keep building.